to be able to present a story from the ground up and to shape it along, how you imagined it, um, it's transformative. I'm hooked. I
Mhm.
like to keep doing this.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. My name is Talal, and you're listening to the Popcorn and Soda Podcast, the show where we discuss all things movies, pop culture, and so much more. I want to thank each and every one of you for making me a small part of your day. On today's show, we're joined by a very special guest. You've seen him in projects such as The Big Short, Skyscraper, and will soon be starring in the film he wrote and helped produce, The Modelizer, which is releasing in select theaters and VOD on July 14th. On the show today, the very talented Mr. Byron Mann. How are you, Byron?
I'm great. Great to be on your show, Jalil. Yeah.
Hey. And I appreciate you coming to hang out on the show today. And before we deep dive into all things a modelizer and just your amazing career, how have you been over these last few years personally, living in this ever changing world as we continue to recover from this pandemic? What does life look like for you?
Well, I'll tell you, so COVID, I guess, right? It's like the war, right? The war happened. It's COVID. And I was actually in Hong Kong throughout the entire time. I was going to be there for like 3 weeks, on my way from Thailand to, I was finishing up a shoot there and on my way back to LA. And then literally it's March 15th, 2020, if you remember those dates. And I got a call from my manager saying that, it's going to blow up in the States. At that time, there was no COVID in United States, quote unquote, right? So I stayed in Hong Kong and 3 months became a year and 4 months, never left. And that was the time I was able to put together and film and shoot the Modelizer. It was
Yeah.
shot entirely during that time, during COVID, at the height of COVID in Hong Kong.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's interesting how people have had to pivot and find a way to keep moving forward, especially in the creative arts where so much is required with having close to close contact with your scene partners, your lighting staff, your crew, everything. So I'm so happy to hear that you're doing well and that something great came out of this, and I love that. So I've been a big fan of your work for decades, Byron. You're such a versatile performer where you can just adapt to so many different types of characters. And one that I had a great time watching is Sean Koo in your latest film, The Modelizer, in which you were so hands on in front and behind the camera. So let's get right into it. Watching it myself, it's got vibes of films like The Wolf of Wall Street, which all breaking the fourth wall and just the crazy party scenes, and
Yeah.
tied in with like your '90s rom coms. So where does your journey with this movie begin, and what inspired you to write this film?
Well, I stumbled upon this world, this world of international models like Russian, Ukrainian, Brazilian, Polish models in Hong Kong. Look, I'm from Hong Kong. I didn't even know that existed. I didn't know there was a whole world of models and modelizers in Hong Kong until I stumbled upon this world by talking to some friends who were in that world, and they were dating models. And they talked to me, they showed me photos, they introduced me to other models. And next thing I know, I got to speak to, different models who have lived in Hong Kong and worked out of Hong Kong for 10 plus years. I talked to PRs, public relations people, who they were very hands-on in the modeling world. And so after months of just talking to these people, they became friends, and I understood all the crazy things that happened, in this world. And so I just thought, okay, it's got to be a romantic comedy. That's totally it, because all these people are after love, really, with their different, methodology of trying to achieve love, but they're after love. So I then, wrote a script about it, and this whole thing was kind of put together during COVID, and we started going into production. We had to fly an actress from Brazil, an actress from Poland, an actress from London, from the Netherlands to play all these different models in Hong Kong. It was unbelievable. It's
Mm.
crazy. It's great. Great time.
I bet, yeah. And one thing that I love about this film is the setting that it's based on, which is Hong Kong, as you mentioned. And what I really admire about Hong Kong in this movie is that it's a living, breathing character within the movie. I think it just brings such a different perspective, especially to Westerners who may have a preconceived notions about the East and how people live there. And like me being from Pakistan myself, I've
Right.
heard those biases in the past as well. And to you, this how important was it to get the vibe of Hong Kong as a character in this film?
It was absolutely paramount. This movie is a love letter to Hong Kong. Look, Hong Kong, there's a lot of preconceived notions of things, right? And when people think of Hong Kong, they think of Hong Kong films. They think about Jackie Chan. They think about Chow Yun-fat, which is all great. These are icons, and they think about martial arts films. They think about cops and robbers, John Woo, all that stuff, which is great. However, there's other facets of Hong Kong that people don't know about. There are foreign models who live in Hong Kong. Who would have thunk that would have happened? And there, Hong Kong is also not just buildings, high rises. There's mountains, there's beaches, beautiful beaches. There's incredible restaurants and nightlife. There's also communities where Westerners mix with Chinese people, mix with all types of people. That's all facets of Hong Kong that I think the world has never seen. So, and we weren't really trying to invent things out of a rock. These are living, breathing characters, people that live in Hong Kong, and we just wanted to present it. So it was, to answer your question, it was absolutely, absolutely important that we shoot Hong Kong as it is. We're not shooting, Vancouver for Hong Kong or Toronto for Hong Kong. It's Hong Kong for Hong Kong. We were all there, the cast and crew, everybody flew in. We were there for a few months, and we shot this film as a love letter to Hong Kong. So,
Mm-hmm. Now, you're known for your intense martial arts skills and just always being in great shape. But Byron, you got shredded for this role, man. What did the physical transformation for you entail? And was there anything different you did from previous roles for your training for this?
well, I'll tell you. So I was in Hong Kong during COVID, right? And I had a lot of time because I was just waiting for the crew, the directors, and the actors to all land in Hong Kong, and they had to quarantine, right? So I had a lot of time. I had like months. So I just said, okay, I'm gonna have some beach scenes in this film, and I'll be wearing Speedos. I might as well just like lose, my belly gut and just try to get in shape. And so I went through worked with a personal trainer for 3 months, and it was probably the hardest training I've ever experienced in my life. It was hard work, and make a long story short, I lost about 15 pounds in body fat, so I was fairly ripped, and shredded, as they say. Ironically, it wasn't for an action film. It was for a romantic comedy. It was just, I think it's funny, right?
No, that
So,
is pretty funny. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So what were the cheat meals and the cheat days like for you, Byron?
Well, there actually wasn't any cheat days. I mean, we were on a quest, we were on a clock, and my personal trainers were really like they were like drill sergeants. So I didn't have any cheat days. I had to report. I had to take a photograph of my weight every morning on the scale, and I had to send them photographs of what I was eating every meal to them. So there was no cheat days. It was like pretty intense. Yeah.
So after you wrapped, what was the first thing you ate that you're just like, you know what, I gotta get some of this?
I ate, I think it was a blueberry muffin, and then followed by a very rich, sugary oatmeal raisin cookie. These are my two biggest vices of my life. And to not have them in my life for 3 months, it was very difficult. It was very hard. But so the day I wrapped, I went straight to the pastry store and stuffed myself. Yes.
Right on. Well, absence does make the heart grow fonder of these things. So I'm glad you're able to just get your fix in with that. And again, like just how incredible of shape you got into this. I think it adds that added layer to the character of Sean in this movie, where he's this guy that's almost starting off as like vanity is such a big part of his life, and just being looking good always, being in shape, and just
Yeah.
the trajectory of the character throughout the movie. I think there's so much evolution of Sean in this movie. So you wrote the film, you helped to produce it, and you star in it, and that's a big task. And now you have a big influence on the entire film, and you're wearing so many different hats. So personally, did you like enjoy the responsibility that came with all these different roles? Was it difficult? Was it easy to swap roles on the fly when need be?
I cannot tell you the stress level that I experienced on this shoot. It was the most stressed I've ever been in my entire life, certainly in my career, because um, you know, I was kind of like the nucleus of all things, of the people involved, the cast involved, and Hong Kong being my home, really. So, and for example, we had to shoot in a lot of places where models hang out, and these are kind of like high places, really fancy
Right.
restaurants, bars, clubs. So, for example, we had to, if you don't know the owners of these restaurants or clubs or places, you can't access them. So you have to have a personal relationship. Fortunately, I was able to. I have friends who are, club owners or restaurant owners. So I was able to ask them for favors. Hey, can we film our movie in your location? And so a lot of things were going through me, unwittingly. That's kind of just how it happened. So as COVID was blowing up during that time, we lost a lot of locations. We just it would happen almost on a weekly basis. So it was very stressful. I got to tell you, in a movie that I think I was starring in, The Modelizer, the last thing I really thought about was acting. Mostly I was worried about locations and, making our days and not losing, cast and et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The last thing I thought about was just acting was like the easiest thing. I just, compared to all these other things. But as they say, it's you have more responsibility, more reward. I'm incredibly proud of the film, incredibly rewarded by some of the initial reactions to the film, and I can't wait for the world to see it. Yeah.
Mhm. So what do you hope people take away from watching this movie, Byron?
And I hope people will fall in love again. It's been a while since we've had a great romantic comedy, hasn't it? So I hope that people will discover a great, romantic story in the Modelizer, and I hope that they will embrace the power of love again. Love is a powerful thing.
Mhm. Right on. And like we're talking about the movie itself and how other people are gonna receive it. And again, as I mentioned to you earlier, I have seen the movie and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it's a great new twist on one of our just like classic rom-coms, just movies like The Wolf of Wall Street. I think it just shows such a different side of that world. And just
Mhm.
overall, I thoroughly enjoyed that. So what about you? What did you personally take away from this entire experience after going through start to finish?
It was transformative for me. For most of my career, I've been a work for hire, right? They send me a script, send me an offer, and I show up and I do the lines and I leave. It's fine. It's incredible. It's an incredible privilege to be in that position. But this time, it's a story that comes from my hometown. It comes from my own experience, um, in the sense that I kind of brought the story to life. Um, and it's the sensibility of this film is very close to me. I like to watch movies where I've never seen those images before. I haven't seen that story before. I don't want to see a story that's been rehashed over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole reason I'm in the business, because I like to tell stories. I like to be a part of cool stories that I've never seen before. So to be able to present a story from the ground up and to shape it along, how you imagined it, um, it's transformative. I'm hooked. I
Mhm.
like to keep doing this. And it's important because as an artist, really, that's your job. You're trying to tell a story. You try to communicate a story that hopefully audiences haven't seen before. And I think that the Modelizer it's a really cool story, and it's a modern take on the romantic comedy genre.
Mhm. Well, for everyone listening and watching, you can definitely check out the Modelizer July 14th in select theaters and on VOD. So, transitioning from the Modelizer to a bit more about you and your career. As I mentioned up top, you've been such a consistent fixture in so many great films over the last 3 decades. And for me personally, it's really interesting for me to be speaking to you today because you're part of one of the most important influences I had growing up that actually made me want to follow my dreams in the creative arts. And that is your role as Ryu in Street Fighter, the movie. I kid you not, growing up with three brothers, we all played the video games. We all wanted to be a character from the game. And literally, there was 2 summers in a row where all we did was watch this movie every single night. And there are so many crazy stories about the making of this film. There's such big stars that are in this film. It's become this cult classic. What was your personal experience like working on this film?
Wow, that's a loaded question. It was one of my first films ever. And we filmed in Thailand, Australia, and eventually in Unplanned, we filmed in Vancouver to finish the film. Uh, I don't even know how to begin. It was a very tumultuous shoot. You know, our line producer had a heart attack in the middle of the shoot and never came back. Our director, Steve D'Souza, bless his heart, had a big, pout, like disagreement or an argument with our action coordinator. And this was one week before we were supposed to wrap, and the action coordinator left the project at that time. So we were we were without an action coordinator. It was the late Raul Julia's one of his last films,
Mhm.
right? And it was the height of Jean-Claude Van Damme's career. Um, it was just crazy. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you, but it was fantastic. It was one of the first films that was, that came from a video game. The other one was Mortal Kombat, and the one before that was Double Dragon, I think.
Yeah.
These were very early days of video games turning into a movie. So nobody really knew what the rules were. And so we were just kind of, you know, getting our feet wet. And anyway, it was transformative. It was, I thought every movie was going to be like this, but fortunately not, because it's too much stress.
Oh, I
It
bet.
wasn't a lot of stress on us actors. It was just kind of fun to watch, but it was very stressful for the production. Yeah. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. So I had previously had Jay Tavre on the show, who played Vega, of
okay.
course, in the movie, and he spoke glowingly about working with you and a lot of the fight scenes that you guys shared because you guys are pretty much nemesis in the movie. So he was talking largely about the action set pieces and the martial arts fights that you two shared, and especially that cage fight. He was talking a lot about a lot of footage that was kind of left on the cutting floor, and the two of you had such a great chemistry working together. So, what do you remember the most about working alongside with Jay in those scenes?
I remember his body. I mean, it almost felt like a suit, like a body suit. It was like, my goodness, how chiseled is this guy? I remember that. And It's funny because I bumped into him in Los Angeles like a couple months ago, and I haven't seen him in years, and it was just fantastic to see him. It was great. I mean, look, it was. I remember that fight, that big fight I had. I was wielding a sword, right, and
Yeah.
that big sword thing. You know, the director called it the
Yeah,
sword trick. It was just funny. It was an anecdote about that because I was waiting for months for somebody to teach me how to do that. Nobody taught me anything, and a Thai extra taught me how to do that knife fight like half an hour before we were supposed to shoot it. I mean, it was just, I was, I can't even, I was just fending for my life, trying to swing that thing, trying to look cool. Yeah, that's the movie.
yeah. So like we live in a world of like reboots and remakes of classics, and like Street Fighter, whether it's the video game or even this movie, it's more popular today than it was when it first came out. And like, of course, you have movies like John Wick and like Extraction that have kind of really brought back the action hero in many ways. So, and Byron, you're like literally real life Benjamin Button. It's trippy how you kind of look so similar as you did in that film. So, would you be up for like a Street Fighter reboot or a reprise of your character as Ryu, or do you think it's better almost left the way that it was?
Look, I think it's better leaving it as it is. They try to reboot that once or twice. They did
Yeah.
Chun-Li, the Legend of, I mean, Street Fighter, the Legend of Chun-Li, which I heard was not very good. I think there was another attempt to do something on Street Fighter,
Yeah.
and it's. I think they were redoing it. Actually, I read something that Legendary is trying to redo that movie. So listen, if you can make it better, fantastic. I'm all for it. I'm me personally, I think been there, done that. There's a lot of other stories to tell, and like the Modelizer, it's all about that. I'm all about telling great stories. Yeah.
Mm. How often do you get people coming up to you and saying, "Hey, it's Ryu," or trying to quote the films? And it's such like a cult classic where on YouTube you type in Street Fighter the movie, you're gonna see like 100 videos that have hundreds of thousands of views and millions of views. How often is that still a part of your life where people still recognize you for Ryu?
Well, it happens at the most unexpected moments. I just came back from Korea. I was filming there for the last 3 months, and I was stopped on the street by a Korean guy, and he just kept asking why, why. I think he was trying to say, "Why are you here in Korea?" Ryu, something to that effect. And I was going, why not? It's free world. So you get that unexpectedly at any time, anywhere, any place. It's today is really the power of the internet. You people can see anything you've done before, anywhere in the world. Yeah,
Well, that's great. And that movie's got a soft spot in my heart. And that's again, that movie's just it's one of those, it's so like bad sometimes that it's so good. But you know what? One thing I'll say about it is that there's movies that are made today that win Academy Awards and people don't talk about them a year later, 2 years later. There's magic in that film somewhere, and like lightning in a bottle almost, with you have all these amazing characters, these amazing actors, but it stands a test of time. And I think that's largely due to performances like that of yourself and just the rest of the amazing cast.
that's right. You're right. When we sometimes when you film a film, you have no idea whether it's going to be whether it will stand the test of time. So, but you just don't know whether it stands the test of time or not. But and then shockingly, Street Fighter was one of these films that uh kind of stood the people still talk about it, which is kind of bewildering to me. But I applaud that. It's all part of it. It's all part of the process. It's all good.
Right on. Well, as you wrap up with Byron Mann, it's now time for a segment I call the final act. Byron, I'm going to ask you 10 rapid fire questions about your likes and your dislikes. And I just want the first thing that comes to your mind. But here's the catch: I'm going to try to get them through 1 minute or less. You up for
All
it?
right. Sure, let's do it, man.
Movies or TV shows?
Movies,
Watch at home or at a theater?
theater,
Favorite movie?
When Harry Met Sally.
Favorite TV show?
Goodness. NYPD Blue.
Favorite season of the year?
Autumn.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes.
Should they remake the original Street Fighter?
Yes.
Do you still have any mementos from the set of Street Fighter?
Sorry, what's that again?
Do you still have any mementos from the set of Street Fighters?
Yes.
No? All right. Describe the Modelizer in one word.
Romantic.
And lastly, describe your own journey in the creative arts in one word.
Determination.
Bam. Hey, you killed it at that, Byron. Bam, still got some time left on the clock as well. And I appreciate the honesty and candid answers. And thank you so much for being a guest on the show today, Byron. Your work has had a massive influence on me. The
Well,
love
thank
I
you.
have for a film like Street Fighter is largely due to performances like yourself. And truly feel people are going to really enjoy the Modelizer, which again will be in theaters and VOD July 14th. Truly wish you all the best with the release of the film. And I look forward to having you back on the show to discuss the next one.
Great. Well, I got a present for you. You ready for this?
I'm ready. Ah, Hadouken.
Hadouken!
Bam.
Boom!